Well, I can honestly say I've been doing this since high school. I worked with a high school band my last year of high school, and been doing it ever since. I had a regular job for about a year, working weekends with bands, and I quit my regular job, and so that's been, I guess about 40 years. No, sorry, closer to 50. It suits me, the person I am. I love to travel. I like meeting people, which is what I do a lot of. I've seen the world. I just love this lifestyle. It's not for everybody, obviously. But it's great, and you get to hear a lot of music. I've had a good life and a good career, a lot of fun. It hasn't changed much as far as the actual crew intermingling with themselves is concerned. The upper level, the upper echelon is much more corporate, not as loose as it used to be. Let's say back in the day, in the 70s and 60s and 80s, even 90s, a lot more, just partying while you're working. Now it's more of a business, and you have to be more responsible. You have to be careful, what you do, what you say, because you're representing somebody. So I started out working originally with bar bands. So I've done every part of the business, like drums, percussion, lights, sound, everything. I've done that with a lot of different acts. Even later on, when I started working with more nationally known acts, I've done a lot of tour managing for different acts. And it's funny how you get into different parts of the business just through word of mouth. Somebody asked me to come and do some the drum work for Yanni years and years ago. Now I've been doing drums for the last almost 20 years. Not exclusively. I've done a lot of tour managing in between, because as you know, in this business, there's a lot of changing of jobs. People don't tour all year round, so you have to look for new work every time they stop. So I've done a lot of stuff for a lot of different bands, including lights, sound, everything. But lately I've been doing mostly drum and percussion teching and some tour managing. So I believe it was through friends that were working with them. They asked me if I wanted to. I actually worked for the sound company doing slave labor, carrying cable and unplugging speakers and doing stuff like that for them. That was back in '89, I believe. And I started, like I say, I started again 6 years ago, and it's been a blessing. Tris, the drummer, is a joy to work for. Just a really nice guy. Chicago has been incredible. I don't have to look for other work because they work all year round. I've been with the band now for 6 years, but I did some stuff with them back in the late '80s, so I kind of knew a lot of the people. It's been it's a blessing, because it used to be, sometimes it'd be months and months and months before you can get another gig, because everybody might be touring at the time, and unless somebody drops out and you have to take their place, you're stuck at home. But with Chicago, we work year round. We get a few weeks off here and there, sometimes a month. But I don't need to look for work. It's great. It's a wonderful thing. After you get up and they open the trucks, you wait till your gear comes out, and you get it out, put it on stage, wait till you can put it on the risers. Once you can, you take everything out of the cases, put them up, you tune drums, change drum heads, do maintenance on them. So you have to phone for parts, sticks, drum heads. You have to phone the companies. You usually have affiliations with, in our case, DW and Peisty and people like that, Remo. You call them when you need more drum heads, more drumsticks, or anything done. You do that, and then you do a sound check later on in the afternoon. Then you wait for the show to start, and you're there for the show, and then you put it all back in the cases and back in the truck, and you go to sleep on a bus, which is actually quite enjoyable. It's like a baby in a car. You fall asleep really quickly. I love being in the bus, almost better than a hotel room. With Chicago, I sit on stage right between the drums or right behind percussion and drums. We have an electronics rack with a couple of computers in there. We have a click track and some video content for the show. So I start the songs, and the video is synced to the music and shown on the screen. So I run that during the show, and seeing as I have to take care of the drummer and percussion player, I have to be near them, so it all works out perfect. I do all that right there on stage during the show. That's basically what a roadie does. You know, all that stuff. Sometimes there's not a lot of stuff to do during the day. You have a lot of downtime, so you sit on the bus, watch TV, or go on the internet and do stuff. But you know, many hours a day spent actually working. So it's a good long day. Well, if a piece of gear malfunctions, you have to either have a backup, or you have to be able to fix what the problem is. You know, I have a lot of backup stuff, something that can be changed really fast. Very seldom, and that's why you do line checks, so that and sound checks, so that you know everything's working properly. If something happens during the show, if it can't be fixed during the show, you have to do it without it. And if it can, you do it as quickly as you can, so the show can keep going on. You try to do it while the show is actually going on. The trick is to, you know, not have stuff go wrong, which is, you know, virtually impossible. But check all your stuff all the time and make sure it's all working, and usually it'll work for the show, and that's the main part. That's very difficult. It's there's no set formula. You just have to be in the right place at the right time. I imagine you have to either be at a club hanging around with a band, know some people. You can apply for jobs, I imagine, at sound companies or lighting companies. If you want to start from the bottom, it's just who you know and who you meet, and word of mouth gets around, and once in a while you'll get a call. The more calls you get, the more you get known, the more you'll work. I lived in LA for 20 years after I moved there from Canada, and after 20 years I had enough contacts I could leave. I didn't want to live in LA particularly, and I could move anywhere I want, because it doesn't matter where a tour starts, you have to fly there anyway, so it doesn't matter if you fly from LA or Nashville or Arizona or New York. As you know, because I met you with Peter Frampton, I did Peter Frampton for a summer. Ricky Lee Jones, I've talked about. Yanni, Stephen Wright, I worked for Joe Piscopo for a while. David Cross, the comedian. George Benson a lot. Manhattan Transfer. And in Jack Mack and a Heart Attack in Los Angeles for many years. That was a bar band I worked with when I moved to Los Angeles. I worked with the Guess Who and Burton Cummings for many years out of Canada, because I worked out of Canada until '75, which is where I grew up. I moved to LA in '75, and you know, just one-offs with a lot of different acts. Like Kenny G, I knew some people with them, and I helped out on some things, and Supertramp, and this was all back in the '80s. You know, Lionel Richie, I toured with him, and you know, Babyface, did some stuff with them, but that was. And the Beach Boys, you know, a lot of those were like they're the B crew, they call them, when they're doing more than one show, and they can't get everybody or the gear to the next show. They hire another crew and they rent gear, and we do the shows for the regular crew. And I've done quite a few of those, and that happens too. Oh, you meet interesting people all the time. You just run into people constantly, you know, that show up backstage, and other musicians, and even some politicians come backstage because they know the band, etc., etc. And Chicago's management, his manager is a big alumni for Notre Dame, so we've done a lot of stuff through Notre Dame with the football team. We played at the halftime show of the football game, and just in the opening of the new arena, the hockey arena in Notre Dame. And we just get to do a lot of interesting stuff like that, you know. One of the things that I enjoy most about it is, in the travels, I've met so many interesting people, not in terms of other musicians or actors, but just people that have become friends, like yourself, through, you know, with Peter Frampton, and people that I've stayed in touch with, like all over the world. I have people that I can go visit and stay with, and enjoy me coming around, which is great, which I love. You know, that's one of the things that I really care about in this business, you know. I remember one in particular with Ricky Lee Jones. We did a show in Amsterdam, and she surprised us after the show was over. She had rented a canal boat, and it turned out to be Winston Churchill's old World War II boat that was restored. And us, and you know, about 6 of us. Ricky only had a bass player, I believe, at the time, and a couple of crew people. We got on the boat and did a canal tour of Amsterdam after midnight. You know, there was food on board. She did a great job. It was one of my big memories on the road. Al Jarreau and George Benson toured together about 6-7 years ago, and Al Jarreau wanted to take a tour of Paris. We had a day off in Paris. For some reason, I wound up going with him in a limo, just him and me in a limo, and we toured Paris for about 4 hours. The Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, everything. And he was such a great person. He was so interested in everything, and he was so, just enjoyed doing it. He is just a joyful person, and it was just a great story for me and Al Jarreau to be touring Paris together. And that was one of my highlights as well. And there have been many others, like with Yanni going to Asia, the Great Wall, and Taj Mahal, seeing the world. Those are the best stories from my careers, doing stuff around the world. People you meet, if you work for one band, you might be on a show with another band, and somebody from that band remembers you, and they were looking for somebody that does what you do, and they call you up, and the word just gets around, or the lighting company or the sound company that was doing that show, you might have helped out, and they remember you, and they know somebody that needs somebody. It's just so word of mouth and pure chance. If you want to stay in this business, when you do interviews like this, and they ask you questions that might be negative to an artist, don't say anything. Because those words get around. You don't ever want to say anything negative about anybody you work for, no matter how you feel about them, because you won't work anymore, because that kind of word gets around too, and it's none of anybody else's business but you and the artists, So keep that in mind if you want to keep working. And always, when you're out there, you represent the artist you're working for. So keep a civil tongue in your head, and don't do anything to embarrass yourself or the artist, because people will remember the name of who you're working for. They won't remember your name if you do something stupid. You have to hang out with a bunch of people very intimately for long periods of time. Like on a crew bus, you get anywhere up to 12 people on a small well, it's a big bus, but it's small if you got 12 people on it. And so you have to get along. You can't just upset people or be selfish. You have to work with people. So just be a happy and good person amongst the people you work with. It makes it easier for you and everybody else. It should be an enjoyable experience. Life's too short to go out there and be miserable all the time. If you're miserable, quit. The best thing to do is be present and do your job well, and be enthusiastic and a good man, and people will call you back eventually. Just patience. Enjoy what you do.